how many women are in the built environment. And we must not just focus roughly on the inclusion of women in the built environment. We must look into different levels. The shareholders at an operational level, and also try and understand the issues of beneficiation as well as legislation. The president of the country pronounced that women must have 40% in the procurement of the public service. And so it's important for us not to just continuously talk about that 40%. We must look into how the whole pronouncement is implemented. And this is the right time for women to exploit the situation. And it's important for us as SHRA to ensure that women and other partners are included in the issues of transformation and inclusive development of the infrastructure. And we must ensure demographic as well as geographic inclusion. We need to try and ensure that the core reasons for the establishment of a SHRA find expression in our work. So we need to try and ensure that we have women, more particularly Black women, in the property development space, women with disabilities, young women, military veterans. We do have women military veterans, and LGBTQIA plus communities. So we should not only just talk about one area of the role of SHRA. We should invest, promote, and regulate, and that should go together to make us look as very focused, but also to try and ensure that we create a conducive condition for everyone to participate in the built environment. And also, you don't just say you are going to include women in your work. We must try and ensure that there is proper institutional mechanisms, and also ensure that there is gender mainstreaming in the work we are doing. And there must be a proper and credible barometer. Others call that indicator. But most companies that are doing research on indicators are calling this a barometer, but both words are correct. And this goes hand in hand with proper planning, monitoring, and evaluation, but also it must be linked to gender budgeting and a gender audit, so that at the end of the day, everyone accounts for his or her role in changing our country to a non-sexist country. The inclusion of women in the economy must straddle between all levels of our work. And there must also be upward mobility in SHRA as a shareholder of the or part or institution of a human settlement, as well as our partners. And also there must be upward mobility. We must not always see managers in companies we work with as only men. And also, there has been a challenge or a problem in the way we talk about the issues of empowerment. Every day we talk about women that have to be empowered, because there are preconceived ideas about women not understanding business. And there are women that are not in the built environment that have business skills. But also, we know that all business opportunities that women have created, have worked, and they have stood the test of time. We also know about the houses that were built by our grandparents or great-grandparents. They are still standing and strong, because the science is not a new been there. And also, women have had their own ways of banking money or ensuring support for each other. But the challenge that we have now is that people always say women can't sustain their businesses, because we always want to bring foreign ideas and not strengthen the ideas that women. Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Can you please mute your microphones if you're not speaking, and so that the chairperson
Yes,
can
ma'am.
be
Thank
audible?
you. Can we agree that the host switches off? And I'll be alert and try and ensure that I keep on unmuting myself when we are all muted. I was saying that it's important for us to look into the skills that women have, and not bring foreign ideas that we are not able to sustain, and keep those ideas, because we want to say women are not capable of ensuring that we have or they have strong businesses. Women are always at the bottom of the ladder, of the economic ladder, and they are at the cold face of poverty and multidimensional poverty. And this must change through ensuring that we implement inclusive programs and realistic programs. I hope that our program will start now focusing on rural areas as well as townships that we are saying we have interest in revitalizing, but also manufacturing must be extended to rural communities and townships, because there are things that we can manufacture from rural areas as the built environment. And we also hope that we are going to strengthen the relationship that SAWIC has always had with SHRA. When I was going through documents, I saw that SHRA has a partnership with SAWIC, and that there was once a conference in 2017 that was supported by SHRA, and thereafter there was a program of action. So it would be good to understand where we are in terms of that program. My major interest in this whole thing is that when you empower women, you make a huge investment, because close to 80% of their income is reinvested back to their families. And we all know that the family is the first line of defense for its members. And also, when we have strong families, we have a program of social cohesion moving forward for a better future. And also, as we do our work, we must also focus on the issues of equal pay for work of equal value, so that we can exist, and that economic issues do not only just go alone. They have building blocks like training and also human resource development. So it's important that we work together so as to have a better country, and so as to ensure that we strengthen our program of development. Thank you very, very much, Program Director.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you very much. So next we will have the President of SAWIC, Meki Lemteto, to give us a presentation or address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lesego. A very good morning to everybody. Let me start with the Honorable President of the Women's League and Chairperson of the SHRA Board of Directors, Mayor Bathabile Dlamini, the board members of SHRA, the executive management at SHRA, the leadership of SAWIC and BE and members, and members of the BBC Women's Alliance, the captain of the industry. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just say all protocol observed and a very, very good morning. Thank you very much, Chairperson, for facilitating this long overdue dialogue that we so much need to ensure that women fully participate in the development of the economy of this country. But above all, that women do make a significant contribution towards the building of the houses as part of the infrastructure that is not just a good or nice to have, but it is actually a need that is enshrined in our constitution. My name is Guilhem Teto, as introduced. I'm the CEO of the South African Women in Construction. I'm also the Treasurer General of the Black Business Council in the Built Environment. and also assisting and serving as part of the leadership of the BBC member, Women's Alliance membership at the BBC. Chairperson, 2020 marks the 64th commemoration of the 1956 20,000 Women's March against the past laws that was led by Umam Lillian Ngoyo, Helen Suzman, Albertina Sisulu, Mam Sophia de Bruyn. Let us make it our duty never to forget the fight that was underpinned by the contents of the South African Freedom Charter as they were marching in. I quote, "The people shall share in the country's wealth. There shall be houses, security and comfort. The land shall be shared amongst those who work it." Malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. I am actually starting this with this kind of a reminder, and I know that we are not in the month of August, but I think it's very important that we keep ourselves reminded at all times, lest we forget and only remember 12 months later in August again. So this should be our daily, it should form part of our daily vocabulary and part of our daily to-do list to remember that there are things that need to be done. Chairperson, we are part of SAWIC, as I've indicated, and maybe for the benefit of those who don't know SAWIC, we are an organization of women. We are advocating for the voice of women in the space of the built environment. We used to be called SAWIC, but now we're called SAWIC and BE, which is SAWIC in the built environment, simply because we have realized that there is a need for us to increase the participation of women that need to be covered in the entire space of built environment. So not only are we representing women in the construction sector, but we're also representing skills developers, which are trainers. We have got manufacturers of materials. We have got suppliers of materials. We have got the built environment professionals, because we realize that from start to finish, we need to have an A to Z representation of women in the built environment. We're still hoping for our ambition one day to see a project that will be designed from start to end until the key is handed over by a team of women across the spectrum of construction and the built environment. We are very pleased to have this opportunity right now. And I don't want to repeat some of the notes that you have already indicated that you've already spoken to. But our history with SHRA dates back as far as 2016, if my memory serves me well. We had made strides up until, I think, sometime last year in 2019. We have a signed MOA that was signed in 2017, also in 2018. And the intention was actually to ensure that we implement the terms of reference that we had there. And if I may just remind the colleagues, amongst other things that we had wanted to do, is to ensure that SHRA is out there and visible to women, because we discovered that SHRA is there, but it's like under the table somewhere. Very few people knew about SHRA, and therefore, as far as Black women in particular participation, it was very, very minimal. I must say that there has been some good strides that have been achieved, because if you're looking at the accreditation process, we have got a sizable number of Black players now in the SHRA, even though most of them are still on the conditional accreditation, but at least it is a step in the right direction. However, we're still not having those accredited SHIs being able to manage and to represent stock or develop stock for SHRA. That is a concern. And amongst other things that we can attribute is fact that there is an issue of access to land, one, and secondly, is also issue of access to funding. As we all know that the SHRA program requires that somebody who comes in, whether you are an SHI or an ODA, you need to ensure that you've got your equity available for you to be able to participate, or for you to be approved to receive, to be a grant recipient. Now, in this regard, we've got that problem. We are hoping that with the development of the new Human Settlements Bank, maybe Development Bank, that things will get better. So, and if they do, it will be greatly appreciated, because that is also one of the most challenging aspects. And then amongst other things that we had discussed was that we're going to have continuous workshops to introduce women to the space SHRA, so that everybody can be able to know what are the offerings at SHRA, what are the requirements at SHRA. But above all, we had an undertaking with the executive management at SHRA to say, seeing that we've been doing one and the same thing since 2016 to around 2017, 2018, and we're still not able to get the results that we want to get, can we look at changing things? Because if you want to see change, you've got to change the way that you do things. Doing the same thing every day and expecting different results is equivalent to insanity. So we had to become more aggressive at the time and say, what is it that we're going to do differently to ensure that women are participating? And having had stakeholder engagement, some of the things that we identified was exactly what I've alluded to. The non-visibility of SHRA, the inaccessibility of the management of SHRA, and also the most complicated system when it comes to project packaging. For you to become accredited as an SHI, cost you an arm and a leg. After 2 to 3 years, you need to reapply again because it has expired, and you still do not have stock and something like that. So it becomes cumbersome and very much difficult for people to fully participate, especially women, to fully participate in the space. Also, the fact that when you are getting into the space of project packaging, it's very important that you have got your full multidisciplinary team of people to be involved, including the backup of funding for the construction side of things. So we looked at all of those and said, what is it that we can do to align the process and to make it accessible? Because right now, with all the forms, with all your assessments, there's the projects, having to fill up those QSA, B, Cs, and Ds, if there's no Z by now, is very, very difficult. So we said, can we simplify the process so that women can be able to be assisted? But above all, I remember having a discussion with Deervald whereby we said, can we also have something like a portal, if not a portal, but let's have a way of saying somebody has submitted and they are failing. We need to go back to them, tell them, your application was not successful because of ABC, and then this is what we can be able to do on our side, or this is what we're expecting you to do from your side. But half the time, people don't get to know why is it that their applications are not successful. Some people are trying to call, and there was an issue of saying the calls are not being answered, and people that are responsible for the processes are not even picking up or responding to the emails. So I'm hoping that over this 2-year, 3-year period, that one has not been part of SHRA, there's been a lot of improvements. I'm looking forward to hear of the good stories that can be told about the accreditation process. I'm also hoping that the restructuring zones have also been increased, and that's going to be shared with us because women are looking forward to that. I'm very grateful actually for the opportunities that we've had for participating in some of the training programs that has been happening. It opened eyes for a lot of women because every single time we'd receive the invite, we'll send it down to provinces. And those people that are interested in the space of social housing have participated and they've given very good feedback. So I'm hoping that this time around we are taking this step further, and we are intending to ensure that women really do participate and assist them in any possible way that we can. We did a quick survey to check within SAWIC how many women do we have that have successfully applied and they have been accredited. So far, I've only received one accreditation, that is in the KZN. Some are still in the pipeline. There are some provinces where there is no response at all because maybe there are no projects that are being packaged for those particular provinces. But I must say that it's encouraging because at least having one that gets to be accredited for me, we are getting somewhere. We'll need to get more, simply because, as we've always said between myself and yourself, Chairperson, women form more than 51% of the population of this country. They live longer, they put more soul into their work, they contribute immensely in the economic development of our country. They form mostly part of the SMMEs, and the SMMEs are the backbone of any developing economy. And above all, when women are being trusted with money, when we put money in the hands of women, We are protecting women against gender-based violence. We are allowing them to be independent and be able to fend for their children and to look after their children. So with those few words, Chairperson, I would like to say thank you very much for this opportunity. We look forward to hearing the presentations today and what is it that has been done, and also just allowing that opportunity for the new people who might not know SHRA, what is SHRA all about, and then we can engage thereafter. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Before we open up to the discuss, or perhaps on our agenda, we had said that after the SAWIC presentation, we would open up the floor. So perhaps let us do that, and then our management will then respond. So the discussion basically is it's an open discussion on any issues that affect women who want to participate in the social housing sector. So for example, and I'm sure there are women in the room who have had experiences with the SHRA. So and Mekile has highlighted some of the challenges. So it's an opportunity for everybody in the room to say, these are the challenges, these are the barriers to entry in social housing. What are some of the solutions that can assist in improving participation of women, suggestions and areas of improvement? And also, if women in the room want to ask direct questions about specific issues to our EXCO members, then this is the opportunity to do so, and then they will respond depending on which area it affects within our units. Then the relevant executive will respond. So that's what that's what we will do at the moment. So anybody who wants to comment on what was said or their experiences in trying to get into the sector and how we can make this environment a more conducive environment for women to participate. Thank you. So then we'll take questions. So what you can do is you can unmute yourself, introduce yourself, then proceed to make your comment or ask a question. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Mobile Demande from Dilegaluzugo Construction. Thank you very much for all the information. This is my second time attending to the SHRA visual meeting. And what I need to appreciate is that all the questions of the previous meeting, SHRA leadership or the CEO came back to me specifically. Specifically with all the issues that my company have been challenged with. So what I need to just commend that approach, that it works very well for Rory to come back to all the individuals of people that had questions and attend to them. To keep up that, because it would make things go faster and better. So there is an improvement with SHRA. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I will take 4 more questions and then allow the management to respond, and then we will keep it like that and then go to the next round. So we'll take another comment or a question.
Good morning. My name is Nomava, a new company that's a year old. I just want to understand what is the process of inducting the newcomers and making them understand the process of SHRA? Number two, is there any process that we can go through? Because recently I wrote the NHBRC test and I got 44% both times, so I failed. And most of the questions that I failed are the general questions because I have never been a builder, so I am not able to answer them. So is there any process that helps people get the practical know-how on things? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who would also like to say something?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Tato Mokhotu from Free State in Bloemfontein. I own a company called RTT Consulting, and I just want to elaborate more on what Meba Tabile spoke about in terms of every time we are told about not having experience. So in my like when it comes to my business, I necessarily don't have any engineering qualification, but as an entrepreneur, I've hired qualified engineers, and currently I'm appointed on 3 projects as a consultant. And to be honest, I'm doing quite well, even more than the males that were in the industry. And what I've learned is that it's very important as a company to work with experienced companies. So I have a company, a bigger company that I'm working with, but from stage 1 up to stage 3, I've done the work myself with my staff. So they've taken me under them in order for me to gain experience as a consulting firm. And then secondly, I believe that as women, as much as we can have Meba Tabile, Mekidi, and so on, and even SHRA coming on board, if we are not going to focus on collaboration amongst ourselves, even ladies that are on grade 1, they will not be able to go to grade 2 or even grade 3. So what we have done, I'm a contractor as well. So in terms of construction, I have a CIDB GB5, but I've collaborated with a lady called Tandiwe Foko, who also has a GB6 and CE6. So we've seen it as an important thing to have a consulting firm and a construction firm and collaborate and make it one firm. And I believe that if we get a project, it will be easier to then make sure that the ladies, especially the ladies who just asked the question now about the NHBRC, to be given a chance by those that are given opportunities, because it won't make any sense if women are given opportunities but are not bringing other women up. Because they can go and fight for us women, but it will take us women that are given opportunities to make sure that other women are also empowered. And for me, who wrote a CIDB and failed, because I wrote with my engineer, so I passed. So they need women like that who will say, in order for you to pass, maybe do it this way. Because mentorship is very important to make sure that we get mentored, or women that are up there, like we have a GB6 and we have GB, to also empower other women, especially with grade 1s. So from my side, I'm very happy with the presentation, and I hope that women in the Free State will also be given opportunities, because just to make an example, I know in our infrastructure projects, even when you go to our websites in the Free State, you will see that even women that are featured in our websites are not from the Free State. They are mainly from other provinces, which we don't have a problem with. But I believe that with collaboration, we are more willing to work with more women in all the provinces. So I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, colleagues. Yes, good morning, everyone. It's Trinity Mashiru from Siaka Federation of Builders Women's Chamber. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you, Madam Chairperson, for making time today for us. And also thank you, Auskile, for organizing this with SHRA. My take on this is that we cannot continue to apply the same mechanisms and the same strategies that have been applied in the past that have failed us as women. So we need to come together and find a way and new strategies in tackling this 40% to ensure that it's used effectively and it's achieved. So my proposal to the SHRA team is that can we have maybe a workshop where you're calling all the leaders of all the women formations to come into a room. Let's develop some kind of way forward on this, because I see ourselves sitting here again today, 2 years down the line and not having achieved anything. So can we try and see what has been going wrong in the past that we're not able to participate meaningfully in the economy of this country, and let's try and change that first, and then we can continue and maybe we can achieve that 40%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am going to, I see other hands that are up. I'm going to take Xoli, and then after this round, then I will take questions from Tami, and then I will also allow Mekile to respond as well because her hand is up. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Program Director, and thank you, Chairperson and my President. My only plea is that if we can see the SHRA team or management being visible to our provinces, I'll concur with the previous speaker that we really need that workshop whereby we can be given an opportunity to ask questions, especially when it comes to access for financial assistance in terms of how to go through this social housing management and the whole construction, getting the rezoning of the place and starting it from scratch and knowing exactly the advantages and the disadvantages. How do you plan to equip us as provinces and empower us as to access this opportunity from SHRA? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will allow our management team to respond. We had questions. Well, the first one was more of an appreciation to the SHRA for their response during the process that she went through, the SHRA. And then the second one was around how do we practically help people who want to participate in the sector, especially women, and how are they inducted? And then also we had a question around if you don't have experience, is it possible to hire qualified people that can assist? And also it was also more of a comment about collaboration between women. And then also we had Trinity, who suggested that we have some sort of a workshop where women can come together and sort of find a way forward instead of having these conversations and then there is no action. And then the last one from Xoli. And I think our SNT team, because they are more involved also in transformation, they would respond to most of these questions. And if the CEO
Yes.
or any other EXCO members would like to elaborate, then they can do so.
Thank you, Lesego. Chairperson, President of SAWIC, let me first acknowledge you, but then also acknowledge what was said about the training of the SHRA and the work that we've done on that, because we do have quite a number of SAWIC members that have attended our training sessions, and we continue to welcome all women in these training sessions, and it is important for us to really contribute in this way. I also do note with appreciation the name change to include the built environment, because I do believe that when it comes to construction, it really goes beyond that in the context of also dealing with the built environment and all of the professions that women are involved in, and that certainly is not necessarily limited to construction. Which then brings me to what Trinity was saying about the collaborations, because I do believe that that is the place where these collaborations would find its feet. From my side, I think, Program Director, on the induction of the newcomers, what we do have in the SHRA is training on introduction to social housing, which is a training session where we basically explain all of the basics when it comes to social housing. What is social housing? How to get involved in social housing, what a social housing institution is, and then also dealing with the general requirements to become accredited. And that really is an induction to social housing. We have these sessions planned for this year as well. And we'll certainly, as we always do, share the program of our sessions with SAWIC. And we, as I said earlier, welcome their involvement and their participation in this. But I do hear that we need to go beyond that, because someone once taught me that you can't throw training at every problem, because training is not necessarily the solution to everything. It's part of the solution, yes, we do acknowledge that. But I think the other things that we are currently doing, just to also maybe address what the president of SAWIC was pleading for, and we only have quick scan A, B, and C. Kile, we're not up to Z yet, so at least I have that little bit of good news. But what we do also now have, and what we are completing, is a toolkit. In other words, a toolkit that explains the entire process of both becoming an SHI and also dealing with SHI and social housing in general terms. And all of that will be completed within the next 2 or 3 months, and then will be available online. And we will be making sure that we also launch that in a way where we try to also address this thing where the SHRA and social housing is not necessarily just under the table where no one knows about us. So please do look out for that. I think that tool, we are doing a lot of work on it to make it very user-friendly and making sure that people can understand what we say and not try and sound very clever, but rather make it a practical tool for people to be able to use it. So I think from my side, those are the most important components, just to maybe also make everyone aware that we've also now completed and are busy with the signature of our MOU with the BBCBE in the context of the membership when it comes to suppliers, contractors, and all of that, so that we also deal with the transformation through the entire value chain. Thank you, Program Director. That's from us.
Thank you very much. Are there EXCO members that would like to elaborate before we go to the next round of questions?
Yes, Lisiko.
All right.
I'd like to, and thank you, Program Director. I'd just like to start by acknowledging our Chairperson of Council, the President of SAWIC, Mem Teto, our council members in the room, colleagues, and ladies. So, Chairperson, the message is very clear, and I think we cannot at this point say we're not hearing what women are saying. It's very clear. It doesn't just come from women. It comes from our clients and our potential clients. And the message is, it's difficult to work with the SHRA. It's difficult to be accredited at the SHRA. It's difficult to get hold of people at the SHRA. People don't answer their phones. People don't respond to emails. That message is very clear. You and I have had that difficult conversation. And I just like, in response to that, to say that what we're doing, and I just like to talk about the the improvements that we're making, particularly to the compliance, accreditation, and regulations unit, given all that feedback, because I have, Chairperson, been here for 8 months. And I can't say I'm new at the SHRA anymore. I've got the message. So I'd just like to tell members of some of the improvements that we're making that are related to some of the things that have been raised at this meeting. And the first one is that we, as the CAR unit, we have already presented to EXCO a revised operational framework for the CAR unit. What am I talking about? I'm talking about an easier way to become accredited. So it's got different elements. The first and very important element for me is the accreditation element. Somebody said, what is the process of inducting new people, newcomers to the social housing sector? So what we're aiming to do with the revised accreditation process is to create a pre-accreditation phase, which we never had before. And what we would then do during that pre-accreditation phase, I beg your pardon, is to then work with applicants, particularly women applicants, such that they understand what social housing is about. They understand what to do with all our onerous processes and forms that need to be filled in. The unfortunate thing about working in a regulated space is that sometimes you have to go through these things, but we have to make it easy for the people that we're targeting. So that's one of the ways I think we will be able to help our applicants. The second thing we've done, and it's not just part of the framework, but we introduced it in our strat plan and operations plan for this current year, was to create a fund in the SDNT unit so that those applicants who we see have been sitting on our conditionally accredited status for a very long time have an opportunity to be trained. So we would refer them to the DevOps unit so that they can be taken through the process, and we call it an incubation program. So that's the second thing we do to assist our applicants. And then, Chairperson, what we have done, and this also stems from a message we received from our council about the fact that we're not out there as often as we should be out there as the SHRA. So we have created a CAR specifically dealing with CAR issues, a stakeholder management plan that then targets the people that want to be accredited, targets the people that have applied for accreditation and have failed, so that we can then give them feedback and tell them where they fell short and therefore where to improve with their next applications. And then, Chair, the third improvement we're proposing is that we make some structural changes. And by structural changes, I mean the CAR has 3 functions at the moment, and we only capacitated to perform 2. The regulations function is not properly capacitated, and we had a lot of vacancies within the accreditation unit. So we've pushed to fill the vacancies, but also we're asking EXCO to give us additional capacity, which will help us release, because what we do, including myself, we bog down with paper, we're pushing paper quite a lot for managers and executive managers at the SHRA. So we need the administrators and the other positions in place so that we can then have time to go out and talk to our stakeholders. And we have a workshop, for example, today and tomorrow as EXCO, to just look at the structure of the SHRA and how we can change it in such a way that it frees up management to go and talk to stakeholders. Now, aligned to that, Chair, is the fact that we use consultants quite a lot. Now, it has some benefits for us internally because some people are doing the work, but lately we've seen that there are also some disadvantages because these are consultants, they have nothing to lose, and these are not SHRA representatives. And so the work that we'll be doing today and tomorrow, we'll be looking at how do we how do we change that in such a way that the people that work at the SHRA, contract with the SHRA, they're full-time SHRA staff members. And that will help us, again, be able to free us to go and do work with our stakeholders, but also try and improve on, have an efficient process, have efficient processes. And then, Chair, the last point I'd like to make is in relation to a point that was made by Mem Teto, where she said it's difficult so people sit quite a lot on the conditionally accredited status. And you've got it spot on, President, because the problem is access to land. And as such, our new policy does require that people have either access to land or some good prospects of acquiring land. So what are we going to do with that? One of the things we've done now, and I'm sure we can think of other things to do in the next strat plan. Currently, what we've done is that in SDNT, we've created a capacity program for municipalities, because municipalities own land, and that's the one, particularly for previously disadvantaged groups, that's the one area where people can access land. So we have a capacity program for municipality, which is aimed at building their capacity. They have social housing programs, because we still have municipalities that don't have a social housing program. But then secondly, that they have capacity internally to run the social housing programs. And we're hoping that by doing that, we'll have more municipalities releasing land for social housing, and therefore our beneficiaries can then access that land. And I think I'll stop the program director. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mem Pulai, there is a request to explain a CAR so that the colleagues understand. So it stands for Compliance, Accreditation and Regulations. So there was a request that if you could explain what that is.
So the process starts with accreditation, and that's the accreditation unit. And we accredit both SHIs that would like to develop social housing projects, but we also, as you would know, the regulations now allow us to work with private companies, and we call them other development agencies. And so the project accreditation unit deals with those applications, both from SHIs and ODAs. And then when it comes to compliance, so the next step in the process is compliance, because once you receive funding and you become accredited, whether you're an SHI or on ODA, then you need to comply. We need to regulate you. You need to comply with certain terms and conditions of both the RCG, but most importantly, the Social Housing Act and the regulations. So our compliance team then collates information on a quarterly basis in terms of the performance of our clients. And we use that information just to get a sense of whether the sector is performing, or the institutions individually for a start, and then the sector at a secondary level. And then our regulations component, which is the component I was saying is not properly resourced at the moment, is where we have non-compliance, and there are, for example, instances of maladministration, and we then need to so the regulations now we need to take out the stick, and we need to regulate, and we need to, often it does lead to litigation if we need to put institutions under administration, but that's worst case scenarios where there is evidently maladministration within an institution. Thank you. I hope that properly explains that, Program Director.
Thank you. Dudu, did you also want to respond? Dudu?
Yes, Lesego.
All right.
Hi everyone, I am Dudu Poswa. I am a Sector Development and Transformation Specialist, and I'm reporting to Devalt, who has just also spoken to you. I want to respond to the concern that Xoli Moahi raised in regards with SHRA coming to provinces and having engagements, awareness session. So what we as the SDNT and our comms unit have started in 2019, 2020, we started working with KZN province, and we have been having these awareness session, information sessions in different municipalities with SAWIC members. So moving forward, we are taking your point, Mekoli, to actually move around provinces. It is going to be in our plan to do this follow-up session with different provinces moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go back to the floor and we'll start with Tami Jugu.
Program Director.
CEO.
Program Director, before you do that, could I also add to the responses to the members of SAWIC?
Okay.
Colleagues, the point that I think we also need to make is the following one. Recently, we've been reflecting again on what is at the heart of the National Development Program, the NDP. And of course, at the heart of the NDP precisely is inclusive growth, so that we can achieve greater equality in the economy. What the document says is that there's a particular role that agencies and government, so that means the SHRA, need to play. And the role that is given to the SHRA and the whole of government is that we must be a more effective state. And what the document says is that we must improve the quality of the public service, which means the quality of the service that we give to citizens like the members of SAWIC. So the point I would like to make, because especially the two questions that were asked by Trinity Mashego and also Xoli, I'd like to add to the responses that have been made, because you're dealing here with a national agency that comes from a certain way of doing things in the past. And this team here, a lot of whom have spoken, have been working to try to transform the SHRA from being a remote organization, which is operating at hand's length and doesn't come out of its ivory tower into the stakeholders to work with the stakeholders like yourselves. That was the way the SHRA used to work. That has been changed, and I'm glad that some of the experiences of that change are being felt. So, for example, we did not used to have a Dudu Poswa and a John Mofokeng out there in Polokwane and around the country in training sessions on the ground in the past. We've got that now. Unfortunately, we are more resource constrained than we should be because we're such a small organization of 44 people. But the heart is in the right place to be on the ground in Limpopo, in KZN, etc. The part that still needs to catch up, and that's why we have recruited Mpulai Nkupane, who spoke a little while ago. The part that needs to catch up at the SHRA is the part that licenses your members. In other words, the part that accredits the SHRs or the ODAs and accredits the projects. So Client Compliance is working very strongly on catching up, because we admit that that is not the way the SHRA has worked in the past. In the way the SHRA has worked in the past has been the non-responsiveness that was made reference to, of emails not being responded to, and our accreditation or regulatory arm not going into direct interaction with stakeholders. So that has to change, because that is the recurring complaint. So to end off with, Trinity Mashego's request to have a workshop to speak to all of the women to see what has been going wrong and achieve the 40%. It's such a useful request to make, because it goes beyond the training sessions that we have to a focused session that will help us implement the improved public service to achieve transformation that is spoken about in the NDP. So that one is a quick win, to just agree on the scheduling of that. That's an administrative thing to get that. And I really hope we can have that meeting quite soon. The last point I'd like to make, colleagues, is one of the things that I noticed when I attended the Polokwane training session a few months ago. I forget what month it was. I think it was February. In fact, most of the participants in that training session, the largest representation in that training session, was members of SAWIC. But there was one thing I have to mention that was very noticeable when we engaged the members of SAWIC. And that's why I want to make a proposal in this meeting. It was very clear that we need to look at the members of SAWIC and to segment the different kinds of players, because not all of the members of SAWIC that were there play in the development space. A lot of the members that were there play in the contractor space. And so I think the discussion we need to have to SAWIC is, which of your members are playing the developer role, where you want support to package your own project? And which of the members of SAWIC are playing the contractor role, where you want the developer to award a contract to your member to actually physically do the construction work? And which of your members are playing the building material supplier role, where you want a contractor to procure the materials from you? Because as soon as we get a more segmented understanding of who plays in which space, then I think the levels of frustration that are being felt by some of the members will get an improvement. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you very much. All right, Tammy, your hand has been up for some time.
Yeah, greetings to everyone. Special greetings to President Kile Matabile Dlamini. I am Tammy Juku from Mpumalanga, Director of Airfo Construction. My questions, I've got 2 or 3 questions. Mamu Batabile spoken about women empowerment. I just want to check a program director, when the government is referring to women empowerment, which empowerment are we talking about exactly? Because there's been so many programs about women empowerment. Is it financial empowerment? Is it empowerment knowledge-wise? Which empowerment are we talking about? And if it has to do with financial empowerment of women, who is responsible in checking whether this empowerment that was called or that was done for women, who is responsible for checking the implementation of that empowerment? Because So many programs have been named after women, women this, women that, women that. But when we check, or when you check, you won't see so many women participating on those empowerment programs. So my question is, who is checking whether this empowerment that is for women, is it working for women now? Two, the programs that we go to, programs that we go to. Us as women, we are required to attend so many workshops and this and that and that. But men, they are not required to do that. Men, they are working. Women are busy attending workshops and programs. So I just want to understand where do we fit in these empowerment programs? We are just the attendees, or after attending we will be the ones that are implementing the projects or the whatever empowerment that is called by women. Going back to President Kile, she said to get a license, to get accreditation, to get everything, it costs a lot of money. And as women, we attend these programs, your SHRA and whatnot, and we do not have that money. And I'm sure they know that as us as women, some of us will struggle to raise that funds. How do you make sure, Uti, as the government, as your SHRAs and all, how do you make sure that you assist women? Because as difficult as it is to get the money to do all the accreditations, we do, some women do, but at the end of the day, they sit with the paper. There's no work, there's nothing. We've got that accreditation, there's nothing to do. You can't do anything with that accreditation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mekile, your hand is also up. Would you like to make an input or ask a question?
Okay, definitely I would like to do that, Program Director. Thank you very much. Let me start off with my comments on what has already been alluded by the executive, starting with Dewald. You know, you and I together, I've always had a soft spot for Dewald because of the passion that he has when it comes to transforming the sector. And we appreciate every effort that you're doing in that space. Obviously, we're expecting more, and that is why I'm a bit taken aback, because I was really looking forward to a dialogue that is going to be objective-based. Objective-based in what way? That we were going to get a proper report, because not all of us were able to attend your stakeholder engagement meeting that was set up in October or whenever, I cannot remember. So I was hoping that we'll be able to at least get the report that when we engage based on what has been achieved, and then we don't have questions that are talking to how do I become registered with the NHPRC, because those questions are not supposed to be for this forum. They're supposed to be for SAWIC in the provinces. So for that lady who was asking the question regarding NHPRC and all of those, can she please speak to the provincial chairperson of the provincial leadership of SAWIC if she is a SAWIC member, and then they might be able to guide them. Again, this is where you need to have that good collaboration and a relationship with SAWIC, because our duty is to ensure that information is disseminated, skills are developed, and the segmentation of our members, and so that we provide them with direction and a directive. Unfortunately, because this has been open to all the women in the sector, at the same time, we want to expose as many women as we possibly can, CEO. That is why we've opened it to everybody, because even the newcomers might have interest in participating in SHRA. Congratulations, Membulai, for being appointed as the executive of the CAR unit. And also congratulations to Meba Tabitha and Rory, because one of the gripes that we were having is that women empowerment is not just about the business and people participating, but it was also within the SHRA itself. So now that at least we've got about 2 people in the executive, it shows that there is progress. Thank you very much. I'm hoping that Mempuda, you will take the issues of women into your heart and also make them part of your APP and also a performance appraisal that you ensure that women are being empowered. What I want to know, you spoke about the access to land parcels. You know, we all know municipalities will claim they don't have land. How they claim they don't have land. What is it that you guys are going to do differently to ensure that these land parcels end up in the hands of the women? And for now, I can be happy, honestly, if you could say that you are working towards the packaging of those land parcels that you could be having an agreement with the municipality, so that the women that are already accredited, whether it's conditional accreditation or they are fully accredited, can be able to start having something to work towards. Because right now, the issue of land still remains the problem. We have got a program that has also been spoken to by the Minister of Agriculture, Umamu Utogo. Is there anything that SHRA is looking at doing to ensure that at least you assist those women that have already been accredited? Less the fact that even women that are not accredited would be looking at those land parcels. But what is the point of having a land parcel if you don't even know how to package? What is the point of you having that land parcel if the place that you want to package the project for is not restructured? So the information that I'm talking to could have assisted so that people understand the process of what is a restructuring zone, what does it mean, how do you get to be an accredited SHRA, and all of those things. There's also that opportunity of accessing public sector buildings through the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. So it would be interesting if are there any talks that are happening along those lines, because those are already available. So they can also be packaged properly and get funding through SHRA that can assist. Also, there was also talk of buying brownfield stock so that the SHIs can be able to have something to manage. So I would like to hear if there's any developments that have happened there. If that's the case, how many women have been able to benefit from that kind of a process? And then to the CO, there's two beneficiation process that SHRA is mandated to provide. One is on the business fraternity that we've alluded to. And this business fraternity is not just about women in the construction sector, but it cuts across the board on all the consultants, on everything that has got to do with SHRA. There is that undertaking that has been made. Actually, it's a pronouncement that has been made by the president of this country to say that women have got to participate at a 40% quota. I don't remember SHRA being able to even achieve the 30% quota, and it will be very interesting to hear what's your game plan to ensure that that full participation in the achievement of the 40% is happening, so that at least women can be geared up and be ready. Because if you do efforts on your side, but you are only preparing for people that are not ready, then it becomes a futile expenditure. But at least if people are informed out of these kind of sessions, then they can be getting themselves prepared for that. Because I'm looking at your stats, whereby in terms of the projects that you are having, some provinces have got zero, zilch. Western Cape, you've got only one project, about 2%. Northwest, so your numbers are declining instead of going up, and there are certain provinces that are supposed to be targeted to ensure that there is development. I'm saying you've got a pool of women that are in the space, in the built environment, that can be able to assist through a partnership with SAWIC in this regard. So let us look into that with your executive management, because I do have women I know for sure that are saying we've got land, but then we don't know what to do, or we don't know how to go about it. And I've referred most of them to SHRA to assist. Secondly, it's also access to the housing units that are being built, because the housing units that are being built are meant for rental, so that people that cannot afford to buy houses at any particular moment, they can be able to get access to housing. Can you please speak to that as well, so that women that are in this group, some of them are battling, they need to get houses, they need to accommodate a good and decent accommodation for their children, or even for their employees for that matter. Can they be given the opportunity or the information regarding access to housing as a basic right, like I said, that is enshrined in the constitution of this country? Then coming to my questions, Devald, I would like to know what is happening with that capacity development grant. I saw that you've got about 8 companies that are in the incubator program. Meanwhile, you've got a long list of applicants that have been partially or conditionally accredited? What is it that is making them not to become fully accredited? And why are they not forming part of the capacity development grant? CEO, the review of the SHRA Act. SHRA Act 2008 has never been reviewed since 2008. And one would ask herself the relevance of SHRA in today's environment. It has been meant for rental housing, but the question that is being asked is for how long are people supposed to be renting? Because the Act does not say people can be able to rent to buy. So are those discussions being entered into with the shareholder or the executive authority so that that policy can be changed? I still foresee a situation whereby people will revolt, refuse and boycott paying rental because they've been paying rental for far too long without any possibility of ever owning the units. So that review is very, very critical because it also impedes on the issue of student accommodation. The last time I checked, SHRA was not able to willy-nilly provide for student accommodation for the grant for that kind of a project because the Act does not speak to that. So is there any policy development that has happened to ensure that at least people that are in the space of student accommodation can be able to start doing the development, and also the development of houses around the mining areas? And then we also had a talk about the development of a panel of contractors. This is a low-hanging fruit, again, that we can look at, because within this stable of SAWIC, where people cannot become developers, because becoming a developer is more difficult than being a contractor. And I've alluded to some of the barriers that make women not to become developers. It would be ideal and it would be very much of an achievement for South Africa to say, we have got 20 companies that are women-owned that are fully functional as developers. Because right now, we don't have that kind of a state. Most of the women are still in the construction space, but if you were to look at having that panel of contractors within SHRA, then your developers who are struggling, because part of their struggle is them not understanding the construction sector, can be able to tap into this kind of a pool of women and be able to have contractors that can help them with their development and therefore allowing women to access part of the opportunities that are there within the SHRA. And at the same time, we are also able to partner with SHRA for skills development. We've got a relationship with the NHBRC. We are managing projects for CETA, and we've got a good relationship with the CIDB as well, just to facilitate that access to information, knowledge, and skills development. Then we know that when you've got that, the panel of contractors, on the other hand, can be able to apply those skills on projects. Women are looking for projects because they need to feed their children. They need to develop their company's balance sheet. They need to be able to move from grade 1 to grade 9. They need to move from being a contractor to being a fully fledged kind of a developer. And for them to do that, they need to start somewhere. So this particular contractor panel could be one of the ways that we could be able to look at. And lastly, what is your game plan for achieving the 30,000 target of housing delivery in this current MTSF? I'll stop there, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go to Mr. Duma before we go to the next round of questions.
And sorry, Program Director, there was a request or a concern that has been raised by SAWIC members that they are not able to come through and log in because your system only allows for 100 people. So I had indicated that SAWIC nationally, we are almost about 500 members. So I'm not sure why is it that you opted for a system that can only allow a limited number. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go to Mr. Duma.
Yes, I think mine, it's short, basically, is to say, I'm just asking SHRA members, executive or management, that we should be in a position, or we are in a position to to explain the acronyms which we use if you want to use the acronyms, because this is an information sharing session where some of the people have never interacted with SHRA. They don't know what's the difference between ODA and SHRA and those type of things. So if you want to use the acronyms, use them. Here it is, but they should be explained to people. It's fine internally, but even when we talk car, they don't know what is car. So please, to management, if you talking in terms of acronyms, let's not have people asking time and again. Just please explain the acronym so that we can go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Because that was a comment, I will just take one more before we open up the floor to management. Guguletu. Guguletu.
Hi, yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, for me, I just want to check with SHRA, what is the appetite of the non-transformed SHRA accredited service providers in participating with us that are working towards being accredited? I understand that we need to be trained and get accredited, but in South Africa, there's a group that is non-transformed, the fully accredited big boys. What is their appetite and what is it that you are trying to teach them in collaboration or collaborating with us, service providers that will also take into consideration with dealing with the legal due diligence and the shareholding, or even acquiring shares or stakes in those non-transformed companies. The second one is just a comment on the developer side of the accreditation. Some of us are small players in the developer side, and developers never work alone. Even the non-transformed developers, they work as teams. I think in looking to a solely female 100% developer, I think maybe in the next 200 years we will have those, because even the big boys, they collaborate. We are open to partner with the developers in your space that are accredited as developers to work with them. Can you be able to open that platform of us partnering with the big players that you currently have? And the portion that is granted to private companies, we are private companies, like the portions that are granted to banks mainly in developing. Thank you.
Thank you. I will open up to management to respond.
Lisiko, can I start? And I'd just like to start by, I didn't understand, I want to address the accreditation questions, but there was a question about SHRA accredited service providers, and I didn't quite get that question. If we could please have that question again.
Is it the last one?
Second last.
Because what Guguletu had mentioned now is can SHRA open the doors for the small players to partner with the accredited developers?
It wasn't that one.
And then Mr. Duma had asked that when we speak, if we could say out the acronyms so that everybody can understand. Okay. And then, yeah.
So
I heard the question, unless I misunderstood, Umplai is asking perhaps about the question that was asked about having a panel of contractors at the SHRA that we can link with projects. Is that not the question?
Yes. Anyway, I think the perhaps the person that asked the question should ask it again if it's not answered. So let me just try and answer the one question. Well, firstly, Megile, I heard what you were saying. And you were asking a specific question, what are we going to do differently? And I hope Deva will talk a bit about the different programs that we have that include support on project packaging. So we do have now a program that targets project packaging so that people get assistance to have project accreditation. I also hope that he's going to talk about the work that we do with the municipalities, what it entails. And I know for a fact that you're probably right when you say more needs to be done, because we do need to get to a point where we get the municipalities to assist the SHRA in terms of its transformation target. So that's work that still needs to be done. And then you also spoke about the brownfields, and you're quite right. Those are low-hanging fruit. Unfortunately, because we haven't been involved, and I'll make an example that we've had a couple of applicants who had projects from tenders that have been awarded by the city of Johannesburg. And the way those tenders are packaged is a disadvantage for our applicants, because there are facilitation fees to be paid, and then there are annual escalations, and those projects we find are not going to be viable in the future. And I have asked the CEO that perhaps we go and speak to the mayor and get help in terms of our transformation targets. So not only should the city target females specifically as well, but also the schemes, the packaging of those projects should be friendly to future financial viability. So that's something, thank you for that. We'll take that into consideration. And then the last question I'm going to respond to is the question about collaborations. And yes, it's thank you. That's another good idea. So our council members will note, our PDNF committee members noted at the last meeting that now when we deal with the other delivery agents, and because we have to look at their transformation profiles as well, recommendations that are going to council this time have a specific recommendation that talks to transformation. So what we're recommending to council is that approve the project. However, because of the profile of this company, we would like to have a conversation with them so that they can then have partnership with well, we said women, I think, with women, and we spoke about purchasing materials, and somebody said, no, that's probably not going to be easy. And so now we know that it needs to be with women in construction. So perhaps, CEO, the one thing we do need then is some kind of database, because because we are going to have the conversations with the big guys in construction, it would be useful for us as the SHRA to then have a database of maybe SAWIC members and other women in construction, so that when we talk to these big guys, we already have names of peoples and companies and their status that we can link to them. But it's something that is definitely doable. Thank you very much for that.
Hi, Lesego. Maybe I should come in now.
All right.
If I may. So there's about 4 items that I would like to respond to. The reality is that the identification of land parcels for social housing development is, as Gile raises it, is a problem. But our work that SDNT is doing within municipalities to capacitate them and help them put together the social housing strategies. Inside that strategy is also the land release plan, and where they can then agree with the social housing partners on how they're going to make service land available. We're not yet there, but of course with with time and much effort, we will get closer. The accredited women-owned run SHIs sit in a better position as part of that municipal capacitation plan. So that's one. Two, I won't speak to the incubation and how many women-owned companies are inside that incubation plan. Dewald can speak to that, but I think he's also addressed it a bit earlier. The SHRA undertook an expression of interest. There are many, as Gile says, there are many people who don't know about the SHRA and the SHRA business. So we went out on an expression of interest for all those players who do not know about the SHRA and the SHRA business, and also to address what Gile raised in the provinces where we have very little output. Positive things, Mekile, is that since your last participation in council, all provinces, all of them, all 9 provinces now have projects. So that's a plus. But those 3 provinces that you know very well about, Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Northern Cape, still do not have enough. So we need more in those provinces. And this is an invitation to all the women entities inside this room to target those provinces amongst other provinces. So those provinces, sorry, I need to add the Free State, because in the Free State we have a problem of a very small restriction zone, gazetted restriction zone being Mangaung. But there are plans to get the restriction zones broadened, which was your much earlier question. There's a submission that has been prepared and was submitted to the department, but it was turned back because it needed more work to be done. And as I understand, as late as last week, more work had been done on that submission, and the SHRA is of course assisting the province to get more. The municipalities of Dichabeng, Metsimaholo, just top of my head, to be included as part of the new restriction zones that have been recommended onwards. So that's a plus. But the expression of interest call, which has since closed, and we received a lot more, I think close on to 59, 60 submissions, many projects. They've been reviewed, and they're continuously being reviewed, and information being requested from the people who have submitted. And I just wonder, because it was a public call, it was in the newspapers, etc., without it being confined to a certain grouping only, if any of your members were able to participate. But it's not end of the day. It doesn't close the SHRA doing business with SAWIC members. And our invitation is to the members in this room to bring potential land parcels, to bring potential projects, etc., to the SHRA. By the way, talking of land parcels, I'm not talking about you owning a piece of land. I'm talking even about a land opportunity that you could have identified in a form of development rights, lease, or an offer to purchase, which can then be brought through to the SHRA to assist you to package that project. The next is, this is very positive, what you've raised about panel of contractors. Council and council subcommittees in the last round of meetings raised the issue about small players and women and everyone in the designated groupings, military vets, youth, etc., to be included as part of the contractors. So here's an invitation. Nothing stops us now that we have 9 projects in 9 provinces. Nothing prohibits the SHRA to say, Mr. Contractor A or grant recipient A, here's a list of people to consider when you are issuing work to. as part of your 30% onward sharing of contracts. So nothing stops us from doing so. You share this contract. It's an invitation to share the list, sorry, not contracts, the list of those contractors. We can do our best to implore the grant recipients and their appointed contractors / developers to ensure that your members are considered and they participate in pricing for the job, and the best woman wins, as it were. And furthermore, Mekile, I want to please invite your members, those who are developers, to identify opportunities and bring them themselves through our capacitation effort, as you're very well known, and your friendship with, I hope I'm a friend as well, your friendship with Dear Valti can assist in assisting those women-owned developers to bring their projects to maturity. Your question somewhat on what's our process to get to the 30,000 target. As it stands, we have 26,000 units that are accredited, 26,000 units that are accredited and are sitting in planning. What do they need as part of how do we get to 30,000 unit target? Chair would know very well, and as council members, that we've said we do not have the.
Sarah, will you participate now reading as a witness?
We do not have the grant funding to meet the 30,000 units. At the same time, we do not have the debt and equity monies. We do not.
Leboa, can you unmute?
Okay, someone muted me here. We do not have the 26,000 unit grant funding to get us to 30,000. As it stands, our long-term, over 5 years, grant funding allocation is 4.1 billion rands, but we need 8.1 billion rands to bring the 30,000 units. So chair and council members are aware that they're supporting us to get to the additional funding being given to the SHRA. Over and above that, Mekile and members here, there are 29,000 units in the pipeline, projects that are not yet accredited. All in all, we have 55,000 units, which will require 14.9 billion rands as grant funding alone before we get to debt and equity funding to bring the projects to bankability. And at the same time, we only have a confirmed 4.1 billion rand. So there's mismatch in the grant funding that you require to get to 30,000 versus the grant funding that we've been allocated. But on the safe side, we have 29,000 units that have been accredited that need additional grant and debt funding facility. Can I end there for now? Unless there's something. Oh, yes. The one last important matter here, Mekile and members, if you can also identify the material suppliers in this room, wherever they are in the province, because we have projects throughout the country, so that we can then implore the grant recipients to get participation of your members in material supplies. Of course, with the respective requirements and the quantities, the quality, etc. Not saying that we doubt the quality level or the specifications that your members may not meet, but as a matter of emphasis, we would like to please invite you to give us a list of those material suppliers. Thank you.
Leboa, there was a question specifically to you to elaborate on. It says, what is sufficient in terms of numbers? Which municipalities have the RZs, especially mining towns in Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and Northern Cape?
Yeah, we're in trouble there. Let me add Free State, please. So all those mining belts, the old mining belts in the Free State, are not restriction zones. Hence, the Dichabeng municipality has been included as part of the recent new application to be made for restructuring gazetting consideration. That's Free State. And then in Limpopo, unfortunately, only Polokwane, as it stands, is the restriction zone. What we are doing with the help of Dievalt's SDNT municipal capacitation work, we're getting the identified areas of growth, being the Lepalale, being Musina, being the eastern side of the N1. How can I forget my province? It will come back to be brought in as part of the restriction zone applications. Limpopo, I must be honest, without talking about them, without them being in the meeting, they've been very slow off the block in bringing in their application, and SDNT is assisting in getting Limpopo to improve on their submission. And then Mpumalanga, we have enough restriction zones. Throughout the, from Delmas right up to Nelspruit, there's Mbombela as it is. We have enough restriction zones. So it's not a matter of shortage of restriction zones, it's shortage of good, credible projects that we can consider. Northwest, a little bit on the backside as well. However, there are also restriction zones that have been gazetted and have not performed. Tlokwe in Potchefstroom has not performed. We don't have a restriction zone there. So SAWIC members, here's an invitation to go into Tlokwe and identify social housing opportunities. Did I miss any? Northern Cape, we unfortunately as well have very limited restriction zone. Take Kimberley, for example, only the CBD is a restriction zone, and there are so many land parcels and existing buildings that are sitting there for the taking, and unfortunately they're outside the restriction zone. We're also assisting them to get to make a resubmission of their new restriction zones. Thanks, Lesotho.
All right, thank you. Any other inputs from our EXCO members?
Chair, I'm sorry, Program Director.
Okay.
Maybe because my name has been mentioned quite a few times, I need to not keep quiet because, you need to speak when others talk about you, just to make sure that the message gets presented. So Mpulai mentioned the municipal support project. We currently have 47 restructuring zone municipalities in South Africa. In other words, municipalities where social housing can be developed. As Lebar pointed out, we are working with the other municipalities in some of the provinces like Limpopo to now also declare additional restructuring zones. And in fact, my 47 is wrong because quite recently in Northwest, we had additional restructuring zones promulgated in the Gazette as recent as October. So there has been movement in the Northwest province, but we still have quite a lot of movement required in Free State, in the Northern Cape, in Limpopo. We are not doing too badly in Mpumalanga, and also KZN, Western Cape, and the Eastern Cape. But again, there's always room for improvement. On the restructuring zone municipalities, the support that we are providing is specifically to, as Mpulai pointed out, make them aware and develop social housing within their areas. And we've identified a number of municipalities that we are very working closely with in this financial year, where the target is in fact to get these municipalities to identify projects. So it's not just talk, but there's in fact a result that comes from the work that we do. Again, the incubation project was also mentioned earlier. The president of SAWIC, would be glad to at least hear about this because we've talked about it a lot. And we do have this under implementation now. It's the first year of the implementation, but it's not a one-year project. It will carry on over years, and new members will be added every year into the incubation project. We currently, in the current financial year, working with 7 conditionally accredited SHIs. So the idea would be to add on every year, where it's specifically targeted at the previously disadvantaged groups in the context of participation. And the intention is also that at the end of the year, that a number of those should have projects in the SHRA pipeline. In other words, it's also not just incubation talk where we give a bit of training and a bit of mentoring and then send people on their way. We actually are working with them to get to a level where there's a project and that project can be made ready for implementation. And then in the following years, assist with the development and construction. And then obviously once the project is completed, assist with the tenanting and the management of the project. So we're in this for the long run. It's not something that we quickly just want to get off and get going. We do understand the commitment of these projects, and it is something that we are working on and that we are very serious about. I just wanted to add that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. CO, do you want to say anything?
Yes, I'd just like to sweep up a couple of the issues or questions that haven't been responded to. The first one is the rent to buy one. So the program, the Human Settlements Investment Program, has been refined now under Minister Sisulu. So you have the largest chunk is informal settlement upgrade, and then you've got the title deed program, and then you've got the FLIS program, and then you've got the social housing program. The first 3 are all ownership programs. The first 3 all result in title deeds and ownership. The last one, which is this one, is the only one that is not an ownership program. That's deliberate. It's not a mistake. So there's no title deed and there's no ownership at the end of the term. The program is designed so that beneficiaries graduate out of social housing, which is rental housing. When beneficiaries have enough to purchase a house, they graduate into FLIS. So the reason why there can never be an ownership in the social housing program is firstly because the country has to have a portion of the stock that government funds that's for rental. The second reason is that if you take how much rental people pay over 20 years and you put it on a spreadsheet, and then you compare it to how much would people pay every month over 20 years to purchase the house, the 2 spreadsheets are not the same. You cannot purchase a social housing unit which costs about 440,000 Rand or 430,000 Rand for the same price as the rent price. So the rent to buy program is needing to be accommodated, and that's part of our recommendations to the Minister as part of the policy reform project, is that we beef up the sectional title program, probably through FLISP, to accommodate medium to high density ownership approaches. So we need to just maintain the distinction, otherwise we will create confusion, and we will also undermine and make the social housing program to be not viable if we overlap it or confuse it with ownership. We must deliver ownership housing through one program, and we must deliver rental housing through another program, because the way that they work from a technical financial modeling point of view are different. And then the other thing that needs to be welcomed is the game plan on the 30,000 units. We can present the SHRA's growth plan strategy, which the SHRA Council has approved in February, so that the members of SAWIC, there's no time to do it now, but the game plan is there and is in discussion, and we're in discussions with the people who hold the purse strings to the money, because we need to double the budget to deliver the 30,000, as Leboa has said. The third one that I've only got two more that I needed to just sweep in. Student housing is a huge opportunity. And the Council of SHRA has said that, has submitted a document to the shareholder department for the Minister's consideration, explaining how the SHRA would like to accommodate student housing within the social housing program as a subcomponent. We have been pushing the shareholder department recently for an answer on the proposal, which we're waiting for. But the meeting is right. We currently don't have a mandate to fund student housing, but we hope we will get that mandate in the future. And then the last one, colleagues, is just on the game plan for beneficiation and reaching the 40%, both within the business fraternity and more broadly, developers, contractors, everybody else, professionals. So we are enhancing the current approaches that the SHRA is using, so that what the chairperson has referred to as the barometer can measure real impact. And one of the new introduced enhancements, which we weren't doing in the past, because don't forget, we don't fund contractors and we don't fund professional teams, we fund developers, which is grant recipient. But we've agreed at the SHRA that we need to not only focus on the developer, because the developers are very transformed. The grant recipients have a good transformation profile, but the contractors and the professional teams do not. And even the contractors, the main contractors in many cases do not. So the adoption of ESD, which is enterprise and supplier development as a project within the SHRA, is what we are presently working on. And the SHRA Council is meeting next week on the 28th to consider some of the feedback from management on using that approach. The numbers, by the way, are not actually declining. I just thought I must just leap in and just say that the numbers are not declining. The numbers are improving. So if you look at the annual report of the SHRA for the year that ended in March and the quarterly reports, the numbers are improving. The second quarter is a bit of a difference in the construction because it had a negative impact from COVID, but the numbers are improving. But what we're focusing on now is making sure that it's throughout the value chain. So it's enterprise-wide, which is why I've referred to ESD, which is not only the developer. So I've commented on that already. So we can go into more detail when we meet with the members of SAWIC and explain how we think we will be able to satisfy yourselves as stakeholders based on a more detailed presentation to you and discussion on what approach we are using. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Before we have two hands. We'll start with Marina.
Good morning, Chairperson of SHRA and the President of SAWIC and the leadership of SHRA. Thank you. My name is Marina. I'm the Chairperson of SAWIC and BE in Gauteng. I think most of my questions have been covered by the CEO of SHRA. My last one though, I think Ntate Leboa mentioned that there's an opportunity. If we've got a land parcel that we can bring through, then we must bring it through so that, you know, we can be in terms of packaging a project. My question is, what is the minimum size of a piece of land that you would consider? And in addition to that, what is the, what would you call a feasible size of project in terms of units that one can present, so that at least I know that if I can bring, let's say, so many hectares and I can build a minimum of 50 or 100 units, that's what you would consider as a feasible project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And then Nelly also had her hand up. Okay, all right. Those were the hands that I saw. Perhaps if anyone still has a question or a comment, then they can just unmute themselves and speak. All right, then it seems that for this round, it's that question that is directed at Leboa.
So, Marina, there's no straightforward, simple answer to that question, but the social housing business is a numbers game. If you are going to bring a 50-unit development, it may not sustain itself. The financial modeling may work, but in a long term, from that business being sustainable, may be in a short term and not be able to carry itself, operate, pays, finances, build enough equity and maintenance reserve, etc. So from financial modeling viewpoint, 50 units may work. But if in your business plan, I don't have a direct answer as in is 20 units, 50 or 100 units, but I'm going to give you the picture as it is. But in you as an organization, an institution or a company, in your business plan, if you do show the SHRA what your intentions are over the short, medium, and long term, how you're going to build a business to sufficiently build enough stock to be able to carry your overheads and run the business as a sustainable operation, then we are able to advise on the initial project that you may bring, being it 50 or 100 units. That's one. The second part is that whenever you bring a whatever size of a project, we of course model it financially. Besides, the technical attributes may work, but financially it may fail if the numbers do not stack up. As to the size of the land, so a unit in the inner city of Gauteng or any other Joburg or any other metro with good conditions of establishment, the densities, etc., may give you a 100 or 120 units per hectare, which is great. And in a municipality, a smaller municipality may give you 60 units per hectare, etc. And which may be not viable or financially viable, so to speak. So all I'm saying is that I don't have a straight on answer to say it's minimum is 50 units or 100 units. A project A and project B would differ. But when we look at it technically and financially, we can then be able to give guidance. Now, I don't want you to walk out of here without having a straight answer, but I'm going to give you the scenarios. The SHRA has in the past funded a small units of 85 units. That gives you an indication. The SHRA has also funded the largest social housing project of 1,592 units in Garangua. So you can see that 85 units has made it, and 1,592 units have made it as well. So, and then the land sizes on both would differ. Of course, on the 85 units, it will be less than a hectare. So it is all about modeling and deal structuring on that piece of land so that we can be able to give you guidance.
Thank
I hope
you.
I've given you some sort of guidance, Marina.
Yes, I am answered. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to ask if the president of SAWIC or our council members that are in the meeting, if they would sort of give us any closing remarks before we hand over to the chairperson.
If there's no one else, or there's a hand I'm seeing from Nasipa Matwa, Program Director, before I speak.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much. My question is, I just want to know. I heard, but I can't remember the name of the guy that just speak now. But you know, it's just that I'm walking up and down. I heard that there is a funding that is that we can get. Like for instance, if for instance someone has got a space of land where you want to build either houses, or maybe you want to build a small shopping complex. What is it that I need to do in order for me to be able to get that funding from SHRA? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Letswalo.
So, Nosipo. So we are in a social housing platform. We do not fund anything besides social housing. So the shopping complex or any non-social housing development will not be funded and cannot be funded by the SHRA. But we can assist in project packaging, providing a feasibility grant to bring the project to maturity, and for the project to meet minimum investment criteria, on the back of us performing the means test that project can be a good project that will ultimately become a good social housing project. So we cannot fund the non-social housing development. That's one. Two, you'll have to prove to us that it meets the restructuring zone requirements. It meets the specification of social housing from the build form. And of course, if, as I understand from most SAWIC members in the room, it is possible that you may have a land opportunity, but you don't know how to package it, this is where then the feasibility grant can be made available. There are limits inside those feasibility grants, the maximum being R500,000 to do certain technical attributes, such as your town planning, to build a concept drawing from architectural viewpoint, to check the geotechnical conditions of the soils, do the marketing, etc. So depending on what the project requires, we can then be able to motivate and get EXCO to award that feasibility grant, but only for social housing, nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Mekile, you may continue.
Thank you very much, Chair, and wow, what an interesting and robust dialogue. I'm hoping that notes have been taken, and this is not going to be the last time for us to be engaging. We'll continue to engage going forward with SHRA. Our intention as the women of South Africa is to ensure that we assist our government as we are part of the private sector to ensure that our government delivers on its mandate. But our first take is to ensure that our people really do get to be housed in properly structured houses that are decent and that are ensuring that their dignity is being restored. My closing remarks, as that will be talking to the way forward, is that, Chairperson, we need to formalize the relationship with SAWIC. Formalize it how? By having an MOU that is going to be objective based and that is going to be measurable and monitored and evaluated. So among some of the terms of reference that we can put in there is to ensure that we have got, we hold the information sharing workshops to cover one, the mandate of SHRA, the process of application to participate, whether you're an SHI or an ODA, and any other information that SHRA would like to share with the members. I had indicated previously, and I'm repeating again, that organizations such as your South African Women in Construction and the BE, your BBC BE, your SIACAs, are a good pool where SHRA can be able to have the audience of the targeted group where women are concerned. So make use of us and ensure that SHRA is visible out there. And let's also see how do we ensure the dissemination of information to all other provinces. We've got a national footprint. SHRA only has got an office in Parktown. So by associating with ourselves, we will able to help you to disseminate the information accordingly. Secondly, on the terms of reference, would like to know about the project accreditation process. So that should be also a workshop. So we must have planned workshops developed that are going to cover the year, at least to ensure that on a quarterly basis, there's some information sharing over and above what people can be getting from the other planned workshops that you guys are having. Bearing in mind that your workshops are also very much limited, but I'm hoping that now that we can have virtual meetings, your numbers can be increased. And please enlarge this 100 people Zoom. You cannot have 100 people Zoom when you are supposed to be representing national. This South African population is way more than 100 people. Thirdly, we need to look at the partnership in the enterprise development as part of our terms of reference. And the enterprise development program must be comprehensive. It must not only talk about the skills information and the skills empowerment, but it must be like a cradle to grave kind of an enterprise development whereby people will have to know whether they want to become contractors, whether they want to become developers, whether they want to become play in the space of the built environment professionals or material suppliers. So it has got to be also segmented as such. It might give you comfort that we are also in discussion and having roadshows with the Deputy Minister of Human Settlements regarding the enterprise development program that's supposed to be managed and reporting directly to her office at national, because such a enterprise development program would assist the entities of human settlements as well in terms of rolling out and the implementation thereof. Especially because the enterprise development program is not just going to be something that is far-fetched, but it will be within the guidelines of the CIDB enterprise development framework. We also need to commit in terms of reference, the monitoring and evaluation of this kind of programs, because there's no point in us having MOUs that are gonna sit there, gather dust, and nobody's monitoring, nobody's checking on each other to ensure that both parties are doing what they've committed to do as far as the MOU is concerned. All that I'm asking for as the president of SAWIC is to be able to say, after we've had this kind of a conversation where we invested about 3 hours of our time, there are some deliverables. Come this time next year, when we chat, when we talk, we're not just saying, we wanted, we envisaged. No. We must be able to say, we've been able to do 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6 we could not do because of 1, 2, 3. 7, 8, 9 is what we're going to do going forward. And then on the issue of women that are in the built environment, I would like to see us ladies familiarizing ourselves with the offering of social housing program. Because there is a social housing program as alluded by the CEO of the National Department of Human Settlements, which is actually run by SHRA. So we need to be actively participating in the SHRA workshops. Don't wait for SAWIC to say to you, we're going to have a workshop. You've got access and it's available to the public. Go through to the website of SHRA, get the information there, visit their offices there in Parktown, and then get the information that you need to get if you want to play in the space. Remember, we are business people. Business people cannot be spoon-fed. They've got to wake up, stand up, and fight for their rights. In this case, you are worse off because you are a Black woman in a male-dominated industry. So we've got to be active participants. We also need to capacitate our companies and decide on the lane that we'd like to participate in. As indicated again, SHRA is not a one-stop shop for the entire construction sector of the built environment. You need to know, do you want to become a developer? Do you want to participate as a contractor? What do you do in that regard? Do you want to become a material supplier? Do you want to become a property manager? Because there's also that opportunity within the SHRA program, you know. So, and also there's a barrage of opportunities that come with every one of them. And as that I was saying, that SHRA is not exempted or immune against the application of the 40% quota that we need to see women participating in the space. So let's do our job and allow SHRA to do its job. Finally, let us also agitate the fast tracking of the policy directive that's going to enable SHRA to fund your student accommodation. We cannot be talking, Rory, for over the past 4 years of the same issue. We cannot be talking and say even today we still do not have policy directive that speaks to the development of mining towns. With our national footprint, we've got members in rural areas, we've got members in the provinces that are largely where the land is actually rural, and also mining towns, as I indicated. Your Limpopos, your Northern Cape, your Northwest. There's a lot of people that live around mining areas, and they do earn an amount that can allow them to have a decent home. However, because there is no restructuring zones, there is no policy directive as well that can allow players to package projects along those lines, then there is a space and an opportunity that has been missed. So if you could look at that. And thank you very much, Madam Chair. I don't know, I've asked a question before I stepped down regarding SHRA's appetite as far as the inclusion of the ABT is concerned. And this is against the backdrop that Human Settlement Minister had indicated that she would like to see at least 30% of the developments that are being done being adhered to or being applied in alternative building technologies, because we do have relationships, we also do have manufacturers and suppliers of the ABT within our stable. Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much for the board, the executive, the members that have attended. I will step down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council members, do you have any closing remarks? Mr. Mabena.
Thank you very much, Chair, and our chairperson and the president of SAWIC, Mekili. All I want to say is that we're very grateful for this opportunity And I must say that credit for that goes primarily to the kind of a chair that we're having, because she is very fixated, if I may put it that way, for want of a better way to put it, with ensuring that we walk the talk rather than talk and no walk. And I wish to confirm that SAWIC in this council, as well, of course, as management, is having a very, very committed partner. And in fact, what should inform our association is that we are in a partnership, because at the end of the day, none of us will achieve anything without the other playing his part. Therefore, I am saying this is a very great development as far as I'm concerned, and I'm very proud to be part of an exercise such as this, where we are not just talking, we're doing everything. The president of SAWIC, amongst her statements, mentioned that insanity is doing one and the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Nothing can be truer than that, and I want to assure SAWIC that that is precisely what is driving this council and the management of SHRA. So together we will make it. The road ahead is not going to be easy, and we must all understand that as partners, our success is tightly tied to each one of us playing his or her part. It's not just a question of saying women are a designated group, therefore they will come on board and things will just happen automatically. It is about their commitment. It is about the quality of service that they will be providing. It is about understanding that some of us men are looking for every excuse to say, you see, they can't make it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there another council members that would like to make an input? Okay, in that case, I will then hand over to our chairperson to respond and make her closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Let me again thank the members of the council, as well as the leadership of SHRA, the officials, led by the CEO, and the leadership of SAWIC for this fruitful meeting. And I think we're all clear that we need to go back to the drawing board and ensure that we are accessible, because accessibility is the key in the work we are doing. We must not always find it easy to say no, to be able to meet our requirements. You have to do this and this and that. And we have to try and make those requirements accessible. And we have a huge task ahead of us. And I think the closing statement by Mr. Mapena is very important, of forming a relationship and work together so as to ensure that at the end of the year, I'm happy the president has given us a year, so we have actually enough time to turn things around and ensure that we deliver the service. And also, this is not just going to help us as SHRA. The government has the responsibility of meeting the basic needs for the people of South Africa. And therefore, we must be part of those that will be enjoying the successes of government. And therefore, I hope the officials are going to work towards a living relationship, because just having agreements but never ensure that they take off the ground is a waste of time, money, and energy. Let's try and ensure that we have living agreements. Issues of trading. I'm happy we all understand the hurdles that women in the built environment have been meeting. And one of the speakers said it will take 100 years to have Black developers. And I was shaken. And we must also make that part of our prerequisites, having Black developers. We can't just continue as if everything is normal when we have not formed one Black developer. And that is how we have to measure our success. This issue is like the teacher and students in the classroom. The best teacher is the teacher that makes kids that are not, or that are difficult to understand issues, to understand those issues and excel at school. The best teacher is the one that levels the playing field and ensure that kids that do not have access to other opportunities perform like those that do not have access to opportunities. So the teacher that wants only kids that have everything and produce A's in her class is not a good teacher. So let's be good civil servants. Let's produce the best out of the tools that the government has provided us with, and let's be true servants of the people. Issues of a panel of contractors, I heard that the officials are amenable to that, and the CEO touched on the matter. But there is an important issue that was mentioned. that we can't all keep on doing one and the same thing and come back, assess ourselves and say, no, we've not achieved anything. It means there is something we are not doing properly. But also, when you're going to train people, it's better to have a quick action research and have a full understanding of what their needs are. But also when you go to train people, you advertise and ensure that everyone gets the information. Much as I would not encourage that, if you advertise your work properly, people would pay and attend your workshops in provinces that are neighbors. So just having workshops for the sake of having workshops is actually wasteful expenditure. Workshops, training sessions must really have better outcomes, because maybe what we need to do is to have a roster of everyone that has attended workshops and say, this is what has the workshop gained, or this is what the attendees have gained out of the workshop, and be able to count successes that come out of the work we do on a daily basis. So training is very important. And also, I understand that there is a call for administrative staff. This was raised by Mpulai. But it's important that you have a dynamic people that have the content of what the institution is supposed to do, so that you have a positive outcomes. Because most institutions that have administrative staff end up not being successful. So we must look at the balance of administrative staff and the staff that has to provide the content of what the agency has to provide. The program of empowerment is the responsibility of all of us. The reason we agreed we should come here as the council is that we were appointed by the minister, and the minister is a public representative. And therefore, what we should do is to try and ensure that we get into her shoes and deliver the services to the people. So the responsibility of empowerment is the responsibility of the government, as well as those that are recipients of empowerment. But also, one-sided approach of empowerment will create problems for us, because when we are supposed to be empowered, we will always look at other people and say they are supposed to be empowered, when we have to be empowered and understand the people we work with, because it's important to understand your constituency. It's important to work with the people and ensure they improve every day after having an encounter with you. And that's one of the ways of ensuring that we move forward. And we accept some of the points that have been raised about the role of SAWIC members or women in the built environment. in trying to ensure that there is a skills transfer, because that's very important. And also the issues of working with or partnering with those that are experienced, that's very important. So we highly appreciate all the issues that have been raised. And I think by the time the institution and the council meets with SAWIC, there would be changes, and some of the easily or of the things that we could do easily must be processed, and we must do them. And I agree with the president. Our dividend is 51.2% because women in South Africa are 51.2%, and that's our dividend. And therefore, it's important for us as women to try and ensure that we create conditions that are conducive for other women, and try and ensure that they meet their wishes or their vision. So we must be a stepping stone for women. Thank you very much, Program Director.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. This then brings us to the end of our program. And thank you to everybody who made time to attend this meeting, this important meeting. And a lot was said about the information sessions that we have and the training that we have. And we are kicking off the training program for 2020-21 this month in October until early next year. So we will share that, that calendar. Also, there were questions about whether the session was recorded. And yes, it is recorded, and we will share it. So what we have done is that we have opened a YouTube channel for the SHRA, and we are also uploading our training sessions there, and we will also upload the recording of this meeting there as well. So we will share the link, and in future you can keep the link. So if you miss a session, you can also view it there. And then we apologize for members that were kicked out of the meeting. We will make sure that in future we'll be able to accommodate everyone in the meeting. And then also the contact people, if the inquiries for training, we've shared our email addresses on the chat. It's myself. I've been communicating with most of the members on the sehodi@shra.org.za, and Dudu and John have also sent their email addresses. So we will be the contact people regarding the information sessions, the training sessions, or any questions that you may have. Without using up any more time, thank you once again for availing yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.